Welcome to the Indie Author Showcase, the podcast by indie authors for indie authors. I am your host, multi-award-winning author Chad Robert Morgan, and author voted most need of a haircut for 2025. So we were off the air last week. This is another bye week for us. A couple reasons. One, I didn't have anything prepared. I am reading a new book that I am enjoying, but it's a tome. It's like this thick. It's huge, right? So, I mean, the audiobook is like 24 hours. I am hacking my way through it. It's a good book. I'll save it for the showcase. I have, it's not really my style of book, but it's not necessarily bad either. So again, we'll get into that when we get into the book. But I do want to make sure that books that make it to the podcast hit a certain quality bar, right? Even if it's not my flavor. Like, we did this before, like with Jennifer Milne's book, Plain Princess Jane, right? Great book, not exactly my style, right? And we've had this a few times. Cynthia Diamond, we had her book on here. It was Paranormal Romance. Actually liked it way more than I thought I would. Still not exactly my cup of tea, right? But that doesn't mean it's not a good book. It's just not a good book for moi. But the point of the podcast is not books Chad likes. It's good indie authors. So that includes books that aren't in my wheelhouse. And I think this one that I'm reading now is kind of in my wheelhouse, kind of not in my wheelhouse. And then again, I'll get into the details when we do the review. But it's a huge book, and I'm hacking my way through it. I do have some other books that I have read, but again, they're not hitting that quality bar. We've had a couple of stinkers, and I don't want to bring a book on here just to trash it, right? We do not want... The goal of the podcast is to lift indie authors up, not to drag anybody down. I mean, keep in mind, somebody worked hard on that book. Even if it's not good, even if they are struggling with some basic storytelling elements and practices, even if the grammar is off. Hell, I don't even hit hard on grammar. I mean, I've actually, last year, our runner-up book of the year had some serious typos in that book. But it was such a good story that we ran with it. I mean, again, you're talking indie authors, indie books. You're working without a net. You don't have a publisher. You don't have an agent. You don't have an editor, most cases. If you are, you're paying for it out of pocket. And if you're paying for it out of pocket, it's probably an indie editor. And it's one, right? Like, if you go to Random House, it's probably going through a couple of different people just to double, triple check. We don't have that as indie authors. So a certain amount of errors in the book should be, I don't want to say accepted, but understood, right? We did it last time with Extermination, the book I read with the gated community where nature turns on the residents. There's a few minor typos there. There's actually one point where they used the wrong character name. Again, it was still a really good book, a really well-told story that had a few errors in it, which, again, indie authors. I'm sure I actually had somebody call out some errors in one of my books, and then I went through and fixed it and re-uploaded it. That's one of the nice things about being an indie author, being print on demand. We'll just fix it for the next print. So, anywho, I am rambling. I am off track. Point is, I did not have any book that I was ready to showcase last week, so we skipped a week. Also, we had some family drama. We had some people getting in and out of hospital. So it was just not a good week for the Morgan household. So nothing got done last week. I do apologize. I am trying to get back on schedule. We will probably not have an indie author showcase for the Thanksgiving break. I will be out of town. And we will wrap up before Christmas. So during the Christmas break, we're not going to have any indie author showcase either. So we will have like our book of the year probably in the second or third week of December, and then we break for holiday, and so we're good, right? So we only have maybe at most 3 or 4 episodes of the year left anyway. So we're getting down to the wire. Speaking of schedules, so we have Creep IE coming up in end of January, beginning of February. They already have some very heavy hitters in terms of celebrities. They're going to have both. You can see my lip is still healing from my accident from Monsterpalooza. They're going to have both Bruce Campbell and Robert Englund, Freddy Krueger himself. They're also going to have a lot of the cast members from Ash vs. the Walking Dead and the other Freddy Krueger movies. But those are the 2 headliners so far, is Ash Williams versus Freddy Krueger, right? I'm excited for that. That's going to be awesome. Creep IE. So before I move on, we will be doing the promotion for Creep IE very soon. Once I get the promo code. Again, we do this every convention with Creep IE. We have a promo code. Every vendor, the vendors whose promo code is used the most, gets the free booth. Last time it was our friends at Diabolic, the creators of El Gringo Loco and Murder Vibes from the Monsterverse. Great bunch of guys. Glad they got the free booth. Shame I had to burn it down. It was a shame it burned down after that. Great bunch of guys, but the competition's there, right? We're going to have to step up our game. So please, if you're going to go to Creep IE, use our promo code. I will promote that once I get the promo code. I don't know what it is yet, but keep that in mind. If you see other people's promo codes, no. Save it for us. Give us some love. We always rank, we never win, right? We're always like in the top 3 or the top 5. But we haven't won that free booth yet, and that would be a huge bonus for us. In other Creep IE news, they have announced that Creep IE Aftermath will no longer be in September. They're moving that up to July. I'm not sure why, probably to space it out a little bit more evenly, maybe so they are not competing with other Halloween events. They felt that hurt them last convention, Creep IE Aftermath, because it was the same weekend Halloween Horror Nights opened. I think it might also have had to do with the fact that the economy was slumping and they had no real major celebrities. I think that might have also hurt them. But I think it was a perfect storm of all that, right? You had too much competition. They weren't in a position to compete because they didn't have. They had some good celebrity guests. Don't get me wrong, but they didn't have a Robert Englund. They didn't have a Bruce Campbell, right? They had some good guests, but they were definitely not the big headliners that we normally have. So I think that's part of the reason why they're moving that up in the schedule from September to July. So we're going to have to look to see how that affects our schedule. Currently, we have nothing scheduled in July, but we had some new events that we were trying to schedule that might get in the way, so we'll have to see. We also have WonderCon coming up. I believe that's April. And then in May, we will have Monsterpalooza again. Hopefully this time I can go to Monsterpalooza and not leave on a stretcher. Fingers crossed. So let's talk a little bit about, before I get into this week's review, this week's showcase, I should say. I want to talk a little bit about one of my favorite movies. And this is a little low budget indie movie. This is like no budget indie movie, right? Like there's one scene where I think they were supposed to be at the temple of this goddess. I think it was actually the basketball court of a YMCA or something like that. It was really, this was no budget whatsoever. And it is still one of my favorite movies because it is absolutely hilarious. And what it is a bunch of gamers, a bunch of like D&D players sitting around the table and playing D&D. That's the story. And the camera cuts from the actors playing the players to the actors playing the characters that the players are playing. So there's actually two different storylines going on. There's the storyline in the game, and there's the storyline about the gamers dealing with the game. And the fact that all this gets juggled and balanced so well, and the humor is it is hilarious, especially if you are a D&D gamer, which I'm not a hardcore one, but I've dabbled. I used to have a D&D group that I played with, and so I enjoy it. And just to kind of give you an idea of some of the things, there's this one part where the bard, there's an evil book, and they want to destroy the book. And he's like, I'm going to stab the book. No, I'm going to backstab it. How can you backstab it? It's a book. It's got a spine, doesn't it? So he sneaks up on the book and rolls a 1. Now, for those that don't know, that is a critical failure. That's known as a fumble, and it's usually you fucked up so bad that you wound up hurting yourself. So he goes to stab the book. The character goes to stab the book, misses, hits himself, that kind of thing, because he couldn't kill an inanimate object. I bring this up because of today's book, which is Players Are Stupid. So this book is written by a dungeon master who had some players that were a bit novice, to be kind. Now, again, I recommend this book with a very heavy caveat. This is a book written by gamers for gamers. So if you're not a D&D fan, you might want to give this one a pass. This one is not going to... this isn't full of character development. It doesn't have a lot of plot. This is basically summarizing a huge campaign where the players really didn't know how to play the game. So as an example, just to get at the beginning of the book, we have a small gnome whose master disappears, and he's left with only a bag of 100 gold pieces and a note that he can't read. It's in a language he doesn't understand. So he starts spending the gold pieces to hire a bunch of adventurers to help him find his lost master. They decide that they're going to take the note to Dwarf Town to get it read. Mishaps happen where most of the dwarves actually get killed. The last remaining one, they ask him to read it. He, of course, panics because he thinks he's going to be the next to die. They finally convince him to read it. And then that sets them off their journey where they find out that the master owed a bunch of people like 100 gold pieces, which was the bag the guy was handing, which is now about 25% lighter. And it goes from there. So halfway through the book, they're coming up against another obstacle. And the same character goes, oh, hey, I have a spell, interpret language. And the author goes, okay, time out. This whole thing started because he had a note he couldn't read. And now he's realizing that he's had this spell on day one that could have resolved a lot of this problem from the get-go. If you're already bored, you know this is not the book for you. Because, I mean, this is the kind of minutia that is getting into, right? Where it's like, oh, hey, there was a, +3 enchanted bow, but they didn't bother to loot the bad guy they just killed, so, The book is constantly hinting at storylines that were ready to be go, ready to go down, side quests that the players just hung a Louis and totally passed. And I kind of sympathize because we did that to our DM one time. So in our campaign, there was this enchanted book. We didn't know what it was. My character was the moron of the group because playing stupid is so much fun. Plus, it keeps you from having to really play. So when I do stupid shit like the ones in here, I could just say, I'm in character. So I touch the book and we all get zapped in. And it was a whole nother arc of story. The DM actually created alternate characters for us to play. So we all had new character sheets that we were supposed to play these new characters. And then when we completed it, we were out of the book and everything like that. Fast forward a few weeks later, there's another book. And we're like, and then, everybody's looking at me going, don't touch the book. Don't you dare. And it's like, no, I'm not stupid anymore. I got the little headband that makes me smart now. I'm not going to touch the book. And you kind of feel like the DM was like, yeah, sure you don't want to touch the book? Like, he had a bunch of NPCs touch the book, and they come out going, oh, that was such a good experience. And they're like, nope, we're not going to touch the book. And he's like, yeah, well, I guess we're done for today. I mean, think about all the time and effort the DM put into this side quest for this campaign, and we just went, nope, skip. And this is the thing, too. Like, if you have to be a D&D player to kind of get the humor in this book, and I don't mean you played Baldur's Gate. Baldur's Gate 3 is a great video game, but it's still a video game. It's on rails. There's a lot of alternate paths you can take and ways that you combine stuff. It's really a brilliant video game. But it's still limited compared to pencil and paper D&D. As an example, Vox Machina. And I'm talking about the original Critical Role players. I was not one of the ones that was an avid fan of Critical Role in the beginning. I think I discovered them slightly before Vox Machina was becoming a thing on Amazon. So I got excited when I heard about the cartoon because I had just recently kind of got into Critical Role. I haven't watched all the episodes, but I remember watching the first one, and they're talking about the guy with the gun. They had to pull him over from another game system. So the DM was being very creative in trying to get a Pathfinder character working in Dungeons & Dragons, or two different rule sets, two different things. There's another example in Dorkness Rising. Again, this indie game about gaming that I was mentioning. Gamers, Dorkness Rising. There's one point where they find a chest from their previous attempt. And so they're looting things from the chest. And they go against the bad guy and this one player who's constantly trying to break the rules.
You can't use a lightsaber! It's not even the right system!
I see no lightsaber. That would be a copyright infringement. I see a psionic spirit blade.
And it's like, no. It's like, it was in the chest. You said I can have anything in the chest. It was in the chest. So, doing it on pencil and paper allows you to cheat, allows you to make mistakes that you it's kind of hard to do on a video game, because a video game's not going to let you progress unless you hit a certain gate. You can't go forward unless you do A, B, and or C. Pencil and paper, you're way more open to interpretation. And this happens a lot in this book, where the players make really stupid choices. And this is basically a DM saying, and these are all the stupid choices that these players had to deal with, and I had to stay sober during all this. So, again, if you are an avid D&D player, you will get the humor in Players Are Stupid. There were several times I laughed out loud reading this. I don't think the average reader is going to enjoy it, to be frank, but gamers are going to love it. If you like Gamers Dorkness Rising like I do, if you like Vox Machina and the Mighty Nine, and I'm not talking about the animated series coming on Amazon, but if you've actually watched the YouTube videos of them playing on Critical Role, then Players Are Stupid might be up your line. It was really funny, and again, it is all told from from pretty much the DM's perspective, right? He actually creates a non-player character, which is a scribe that's just basically ghosting them and writing down everything that they're doing. But it's basically the DM, right? This is a first-person omnipotent pointing out all the stupid errors that they're doing. Hinting at, oh yeah, they took an 8-hour rest, even though that they have to get back before this timer runs out because this guy's gonna die. They decided to light a fire, which of course called all the monsters to them. So that kind of thing. They're climbing a dam and they're totally ignoring the fact that there's some bad guys putting a bomb at the bottom of the dam. And now they're on top of the dam. And now they decided that maybe we should do something about it. Maybe we can hit them with arrows from the top of the dam. I mean, imagine standing on top of Hoover Dam and trying to hit people at the bottom. So finally they went, I guess not our problem. And the whole town got wiped out. So, again, it's really just stupidity on top of stupidity, and it is hilarious. And but it is going to be for the hardcore gamer in your life. So that's this week's showcase. I know we're a little bit short, but again, I'm still a little bit behind the 8-ball. I'm still getting caught up. Again, I recommend catching Dorkness Rising if you are a D&D fan. It was hilarious. Players Are Stupid if you are a D&D fan as well. You'll also get a good laugh out of that. And I'm sure that if you play the game, if you've been a DM, you've had players like this. I've been players like this. So you will sympathize. You'll be like, oh my God, that reminds me of that one time. That's going to be this book. So feel free to check it out. And until next week, keep on reading.